The Indiana Fever were supposed to enter this season as a super team in progress. You had the biggest star women's basketball has seen in years in Caitlin Clark. You already had Aaliyah Boston anchoring the paint. Veteran shooters, new coaching staff, huge national attention, everything pointed toward a franchise finally ready to compete at the highest level. But now, the conversation has completely shifted, because when Stephanie White openly admitted Indiana lacks size, fans immediately connected the dots. This wasn't just a random preseason observation. This sounded like a coach realizing the roster construction may already be flawed before the season even starts. And that's where the pressure explodes. You cannot build around Caitlin Clark and then surround her with roster weaknesses that every other contender can exploit instantly. Especially in today's WNBA, where length, versatility, and defensive switching dominate championship basketball, look at the elite teams across the league. New York has size everywhere. Las Vegas overwhelms teams physically. Connecticut has always prioritized length and toughness. Even rebuilding teams are targeting wings and forwards who can defend multiple positions. Meanwhile, Indiana loaded up on smaller guards. That's the issue people keep circling back to. Not because the guards are untalented, but because roster balance matters. Championship contenders don't just collect skill, they build complementary lineups. And now fans are wondering if the Fever front office completely misread what this roster actually needed around Caitlin Clark. Indiana's biggest problem isn't offense. Caitlin Clark guarantees offense. She changes the geometry of the floor the second she crosses half court. Defenses panic, transition spacing changes. Help defenders collapse early. But basketball at the highest level becomes brutal when you cannot physically match up. That's exactly why this quote hit so hard.
Have a court rotation you'd like to see out there, or do you figure those out on the fly?
No, I mean, I think we've started to sketch some together. What we'd like to see, who we'd like to see play with each other in an ideal, situation. We've started to put some of those together. New York also presents some challenges because of their size and their length, and we're not very big.
You just realized that? You just realized that New York, outside of Sabrina, they go 6.
The moment Stephanie White mentioned New York's size and admitted Indiana isn't very big, the entire debate reignited instantly. Because fans had been saying this for months. And here's the real basketball issue nobody can ignore. Size in the modern WNBA is no longer just about centers. It's about wings. It's about switchability. It's about whether your guards can survive physically for an entire season against elite playoff teams. When you look at New York, they can throw wave after wave of length at opposing backcourts. Bigger guards disrupt passing lanes. Bigger wings force difficult shot angles. Bigger lineups dominate rebounds and transition defense. Now imagine the pressure that puts on Caitlin Clark. She's already carrying enormous offensive responsibility. She's handling traps, double teams, physical defenders, and non-stop media attention every single night. If the roster around her cannot absorb physical matchups, that burden becomes even heavier. And historically, we've seen this before with superstar guards. Early in her career, even Diana Taurasi needed stronger roster balance around her before Phoenix became dominant. Sue Bird's best Seattle teams always had size and defensive versatility around the perimeter. The greatest offensive guards still needed protection structurally. That's the concern here, because Indiana may have built a roster that can score highlights, but not necessarily survive playoff basketball. And then things got even more intense once the guard conversation started.
You went and got all these guards. You went and got Ty Harris. Cool. You went and got her. Cool. You went and got Walker Shatori, Kimbrough, all this. For what? Why do we got all these little ass guards and little ass players on this team? Don't talk about you don't have guard size. Y'all wanted to give Kelsey Mitchell $1.4 million. Y'all knew she was small when y'all gave her the $1.4 million. I don't want to hear this thing about size now. Stephanie White, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. You should have known we needed more size. You should have known that.
That criticism cuts directly into the Fever's offseason philosophy. The argument isn't that these guards can't play. The argument is that Indiana may have overprioritized ball handling and guard depth while ignoring physical balance. That becomes dangerous over a full season. Especially because Caitlin Clark herself already plays an exhausting style of basketball. She's constantly moving, constantly creating, constantly reading defenses at high speed. Players with that kind of offensive responsibility need lineups that reduce wear and tear. Instead, Indiana may have accidentally created a roster where Clark has to solve every problem offensively while the team struggles physically against elite opponents. And psychologically, that creates frustration fast. Superstars notice roster weaknesses immediately. They feel it during practices. They feel it during film sessions. They feel it every time a bigger opponent crashes the glass or forces switches. That's where front office pressure starts becoming real. Because once a franchise drafts a generational player, every move gets magnified. Every missed free agent matters. Every failed draft pick matters. Every roster imbalance gets exposed nationally. And Caitlin Clark isn't just any rookie-scale player. She's the economic engine of the league right now. Ticket sales spike everywhere she goes. TV ratings explode. Arenas sell out. So if Indiana mismanages this roster build early, the criticism is going to become relentless. Now let's talk about the interior problem, because this is where the concern gets deeper than just guard size.
Listen to her one more time. Come on.
In an ideal, situation, we've started to put some of those together. New York also presents some challenges because of their size and their length, and we're not very big, in the guard position. So we're big on the interior, but on.
No, you're not big on the interior. You got Aaliyah Boston. You got Maisha Hines-Allen. I just blanked on the one we signed from the Valkyries. I just blanked on her. Pardon me. But
that section reveals something important: uncertainty. And uncertainty is dangerous for a contender. Questions about depth, availability, size combinations, rotations, those are things rebuilding teams usually deal with. But Indiana entered this year trying to present itself as a team ready to accelerate into contention immediately. Instead, the preseason conversation already sounds reactive, and that matters because the Eastern Conference isn't forgiving. New York is loaded. Connecticut still plays physical basketball. Atlanta added toughness. Chicago continues building size and rebounding. Indiana cannot simply rely on offensive firepower every night. What makes this even more important financially is Caitlin Clark's timeline as a franchise centerpiece. Once you have a player this marketable, expectations move faster than normal rebuilding schedules. Fans don't want patience anymore. Sponsors don't want patience. National television doesn't want patience. The Fever are no longer a small market rebuilding story. They are one of the faces of the league now. And if the front office fails to maximize these early years correctly, every offseason decision becomes part of a much bigger conversation about whether the organization truly understands how to build around a generational superstar. That's why this debate exploded online so quickly. People aren't just debating preseason rotations. They're debating whether Indiana properly protected the future of the most important young star in women's basketball. Then came the line that really pushed fans over the edge.
Okay, yeah, but come on, Stephanie White. You guys blew it, man.
And from a guard position, we're not very big, so we'll look at that and see who they have out there at some times and adjust.
From a guard position, we're not very big. That's your problem. You knew that. You had an opportunity to go and get bigger guards. You had an opportunity.
Is that kind of a perfect starting opponent preseason-wise to get to see how you stack up and what different things you can do against a bigger team?
I don't know. Like game one of a preseason is just you throw a lot of different things out there.
That's the moment where frustration fully boils over. Because once a coach openly identifies a weakness that fans had already been screaming about for months, it creates the appearance that the organization reacted too late. Fair or unfair, that becomes the narrative. And narratives matter in professional sports. Especially in the Caitlin Clark era, where every Fever game becomes national discussion material. Now the pressure shifts directly onto the front office. Can they adjust? Can they add size midseason? Can they find defensive versatility before playoff races tighten up? Or will Indiana spend the entire year trying to outscore structural problems that better teams can expose repeatedly? That's the question hovering over this franchise right now. Because talent alone doesn't guarantee championships. Roster construction does, fit does, balance does. And the Fever are learning in real time that building around a generational offensive star requires more than simply collecting guards and hoping chemistry fixes everything. At the end of the day, nobody doubts Caitlin Clark's talent. The real debate is whether Indiana built a roster worthy of maximizing it. And if Stephanie White's comments become the first major warning sign of deeper organizational problems, then this season could become far more turbulent than anyone expected. So now the question shifts to the fans. Did the Fever front office genuinely fail Caitlin Clark during free agency and the draft? Or is this criticism being blown out of proportion before the season even begins?